Yeah, so sorry, I got cut off there. Today we were going to look at sort of the scope of work and maybe the limit of work, just, go back and do a refresher on what was proposed and included in our cost estimate back in 2017. And also we wanted to take a quick look at maybe, just an overview of the building finishes for the areas that we're going to be renovating in, what type of floor, what type of ceilings and that sort of stuff, so that Janet and Amy and their team can put that into the document that will ultimately go to the cost estimators to price in about 6 or 8 weeks' time. So with that, Janet, I'll hand it over to you. And
yep, can you let me share the screen so I can? I put it in a PowerPoint to make it easy for everybody to see. So
I think you should be, if you just
if I just
screen.
Host disabled participant screen sharing.
I don't know who the host is.
Who's the host? Oops. Is that on the town's end, Shane?
Well, when I say there's a thing there that says claim host, but they never gave me a key to become
Oops.
the host.
Oh, that's too bad.
I think the original email came from Sherry Dalton.
Yeah.
Joe, are you host?
Joe?
No.
Oops.
Let me, I'll email Sherry quickly and see.
Okay. I can, what I've done, when Shay's doing that, I can tell you what I can tell you a couple things else. So we got the initial code report on the building just recently, so I haven't had a chance to fully dig into it, but I did talk to the code people and there's nothing, it's all looking pretty good based on what we've done. There are some minor issues that we'll look at. The biggest one being the it's not even big. It's just that the existing stair where the elevator is, where the two buildings connect, you're allowed to have that interior stair, but you have to have a look at the exit door from that point. And so now we're a little bit behind that wall there. So I talked to them about that, and we have some ideas of how to fix that. So that was probably the biggest thing, and that's not even a big thing. It'll be off the lobby, and so we'll be working on that. There were a couple other things, door swings, things like that. There was one question about the exit from the detention area, which is part of I-3. So we're going to have to dig a little into that. Right, you're allowed to go through a Sally port, and we have to confirm that you can go through an overhead door, not just a man door, because there wasn't a man door to begin with, unless you went through the room that is now the armory. So we have a couple of those things to look at. There's a couple of recommendations that they're making about panic hardware on some doors that they would have put in if they were doing this building 20 years ago. So we'll look at those. Nothing very big. So that's all good news. And as we had hoped. And so once I finish reviewing that and asking the appropriate questions, I will get back to you. We also just this morning received the preliminary Revit files and the survey. I don't know, I haven't looked at it yet. I don't know if Amy's had a chance to look at it since it just arrived in the office. So, but we'll be looking at that. So that's good news that we'll be able to get that going in the next week or so as we look at the model, make sure we can use it and get it to everybody. Then we can begin to actually do plan work. So so those are the two other things. I
just made you a co-host. So
you did. Okay. All right. Let's see.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you see my slide?
Yep.
Yep. Okay. So Shane and I talked the other night about making sure everybody remembered what was in the original design scope, so we can make sure it's covered. And what I did was I dug back into the the drawings and the information from years ago and looked at it. And these are a couple of the things. I'm not going to go through the Mep Fp changes, but I want to say the scope is limited to the work directly affected by any of the additions or reconfigured areas, and then upgrades to Mep Fp as necessary. So I just highlighted a couple of the Mep Fp changes, basically, like, for instance, ductwork piping and terminal devices not impacted by renovation work will remain to be reused. Extensions of existing systems proposed if possible, to remain. Some electrical panel work will be done. Most will be reused. If existing branch circuits extended, there will be new LED lighting in all the locations where there will be. Fire alarm will be relocated to the new dispatch center, and the security system will be expanded. Existing plumbing distribution systems will be reused. There will be a new water heater put in the building, and the fire protection system is going to remain and be extended. There'll be also patching and painting of incidental areas affected by the new work. And potentially any upgrades we're going to have to make for any of the temporary entry points that we build, whether, how we provide protection for the upper levels through that public, for what is now a private stair into a public area, whether there'll be hardware, whether will be some sort of a AI phone system put in there. We'll have to talk about that. And then there will be no changes to the vertical circulation except for that lobby exit that I was talking to you about, because of the location of the door. So there's no changes to any of that. So as far as finishes go, there are two categories. There is the ETR, existing to remain category.
So Janet, just backing, Janet.
Yes.
Yeah, just backing up onto that. So I know we'll look at MEP systems in a couple of weeks, but can you just coordinate that last slide with the engineers' reports?
Yeah.
Look at the engineers' reports, and they were, I think, saying we should replace all terminal units. We should put LED throughout the building, not just in the areas that are renovated.
Yeah.
So we just need to coordinate that, and we'll probably get more into that in a couple of weeks when we do talk specifically about MEP.
Yeah, I mean, they owned, in the estimates, we owned like rooftop unit replacement, and I think there were 1, 2, 3, 5 rooftop units and other units that would be replaced. That was already in one of the estimates, or in an extra. So it's pretty extended. I'm going to be talking to the engineers. They already know about it. I'm going to talk to them about that presentation. We should really, since they haven't had a chance to have the model yet or anything, I want to talk to them about what that presentation will be all about. And I have to say, Shane, that you kept cutting out on me, so I don't know if I answered your question at all. Amy, did you hear the whole question, and did I answer it? So you keep cutting out on me. So
I think.
Yeah, well, we just need to coordinate it, because I think that that the reports and the estimate don't corroborate, and the reports have some stuff in it that they're recommending, and I want to make sure that it's in, or if it's not in, that we highlight it's not in.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
I have a question about the ductwork before you go on. There's a known issue with backdrafts and complaints of smelling foods, and we're not replacing any of the ductwork outside of this renovation, but this is our opportunity to reconfigure and rebalance the system, like, even though it's outside the scope. So we should I would think we would just have planned for it.
Yeah, I think they heard about that. I remember that during the study being noted. I don't know how they included it in their descriptive thing exactly, but one would assume that they're going to prepare the issues like the kitchen and whatever they're kicking in the fire department, they can smell it in the police department, the problem with the hot water in the urinals, things like that. I think they'll be addressing all of those, Phil. But
they'll leave a commission. They're going to fully commission the whole system as part of this, even though that's outside. Like we're adding to an existing system. They need to make sure this new configuration of the system's working as it should, right?
Right. Well, I certainly hope so. Yeah, they knew it. They reviewed the entire system for the entire building. And so okay. I think what they're saying is that if ductwork is already existing, like in all the fire department. Obviously they'll make sure it's working, you know, as far as, is it into the right place, or is this the cause of the smell or whatever? But they're not going to replace any of that at this point in time. I think that's what they were referring to.
So if they find like damper issues or something, they probably won't touch that either.
Yeah, I mean, we can maybe have a more detailed conversation about them as to, you know, if in their review of this, if they see something extraordinary that's different or has deteriorated further or anything else. And obviously, if either of the end users has new issues, I would like them to make sure that they share that with us before we get too far down the pathway on this phase. Okay.
Yeah, it was all in programming, I think, right? That's what I remember it from.
Yeah, no, it was.
All the beginning phases. Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Okay. And my only other question is, one of the surveys comes back and it's not usable for some reason. Do they have to redo it, or do you know enough of these that they can patch them together, or what happens? Like,
which survey?
Did you mention the laser surveys were back in, or the? I forget what you called it. I know you said there was another name. So.
They did a full building scan, so that's the Revit model.
The Revit,
yeah.
No. Okay, that's not the guys that were inside doing the 3D mapping and stuff.
That's a 3D mapping. They also did a site survey, and we did the geotech. So we have all three of those just coming together right now. So everybody has to look at all that information, and
everything comes in at once. That's the.
It does. It's all. What. Yeah, we got started, always. You know, right at the same time, and everything was overlapping. Right. Everybody was trying to get done, especially with the outside work in case the weather went bad. So that's all just being dumped on us, and we haven't even had a chance to look at it yet to even tell you. But Amy can speak to you more how the Revit models are used, and you know, you have to look at them. You have to, you know, study them, make sure they're complete. If they have to go back and look at something, they will. If they haven't linked something correctly, you know, but we'll be able to use it the way we want. And Amy and I had lots of conversations with WSP before they even got started. So I'm hoping it's a pretty smooth transition from point cloud to usable model.
And they give us all of that backup data too. They give us the point cloud so that if once we get into design, we think something's missing, we can go back and look at it and try to figure out what's, you know, gone wrong. But they owe us a complete, you know, model based on the scanning that they're doing. So we should be in good shape.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks. Sorry to ask so many questions. Yeah.
No, that's good. That's good. Okay. So getting back to the existing to remain and trying to, I have some plans to show you too. This is just kind of a summary. So the flooring and associated base that is existing to remain are in all the stairs and elevator, the men and women's locker and shower rooms in the police department, the training room, projector room, 2 storage rooms, and the fire department toilets, all in that little core, all to fire department offices and conference rooms, as well as all their living spaces. There's essentially no work in the fire department other than at the new entry where we're creating the new window and walk-up space. And then these are the finishes that we own right now. We own primarily linoleum as a flooring. If there is VCT in an area like in the shower rooms, I believe, and the toilet rooms, will match that. There's going to be carpet in offices and dispatch, ceramic tile in any new toilet rooms, porcelain ceramic tile in the lobby, and walk-off carpet in the vestibule. So that's what we own right now. I don't see any problems with any of those materials, but we can certainly talk about them. But that's what's owned in the study document.
Anna, can I just bring up something real quick about flooring?
Yep.
When the building was originally finished in 2003, we had carpeting and dispatch. Which we had to remove and replace with linoleum. It's too much of a high traffic area for carpet to survive in that room.
Okay, we could do that. Easy. Okay, so that's an easy switch completely. And we can change these. We can, you know, as we're doing them, we're going to go over these with you in detail. This is pretty much Shane asked me to talk about what we owned, and I'm looking at them saying, would I make any changes? So please make the changes as we go along. Ceilings are much the same, existing to remain.
So just backing up there, Janet, is there any special floor finishes we need? You know, I know Janet or somebody from the police department can tell us, you know, for instance, the evidence room, armory rooms, is VCT okay? Do we need to put some sort of epoxy down? Is there some sort of acid proof?
You know, we put resinous flooring sometimes in some of these higher trafficked areas, but we'll take a look at that. I'm not seeing, you know, we have a lot of office space, and we're not really changing any of the big concrete kind of floors, apparatus, sally ports, and all that are not getting any new, you know, kind of build up. We'll have to look at what we do to the sally port floor. You know, we're kind of extending that floor. So, you know, we may look at that. But I don't see anything specific. Amy,
is that just concrete now, or is there a finish?
I think whether there's concrete, I'd have to look at the spec to see if they have any hardener finish on the floors, but I think they're concrete right now. Yeah. I do know, and Chief Score, you can comment or on this, is I know that when we walked, and we don't own any of this, but I will bring it up because I do remember it. When we walked in the cell area, I remember you guys talking about how the floor from the get-go had some problems. Do you still have problems with that finish in that floor?
No, the problems when we first came back into the building were that the drains were higher than the floor.
Okay.
So they had to shave the floor down and lower the drains.
Okay.
The floor in the sally port is concrete with a finish on top of it.
Right. It might be a resinous flooring top. Okay. All right. So, all right. So the point of that will be, though, that you know, we'll have to determine whether we own completely refinishing the floor, which might be recall removing some finish to put something new on. We'll have to look at that, but that would be the one location. The rest of it, you know, I can't see anything specific that I would look at differently right now. There's nothing. There's no. I don't typically put anything special in a. I do know that, for instance, in the evidence room, you know, I think we would just put linoleum in there. I don't see why we would do it, but we could just do a concrete floor. I mean, we could certainly just do a concrete floor if there's any reason to save some money or something like that. And that way we would put some hardener, definitely hardener finishing on that, so it's finished. Amy, I don't know if you have any other thoughts on flooring or finishes that are special.
Not really at this point. I think, you know, I agree with you. We typically do linoleum in the evidence unless somebody says they have some, you know, harsh chemicals that they're using in there that we need to take into consideration.
Right. So, all right. So the ceilings, you know, we're in the same vein as the flooring. We're not replacing things unless we're sort of touching them. So that includes the men and women's locker rooms in the department, the training room, projector room, the corridor 131, which is in front of the fire department, running east-west. We kind of creep into that corridor running north-south. So we will have some work in there. All fire department offices and conference room, the police department side door vestibule. We didn't own anything in there, and I know the chief has asked us to look at that, the way that the way you move through that vestibule. So we'll have to look at that. And then existing police department toilets on the second floor that we're not touching. And then the new ceilings, there are some painted exposed structure. Like I don't think we put a ceiling in the evidence room, for instance. There is no need. Maximize the height in there. We have some painted gypsum wallboard ceilings, and the rest of it I think is 2x2 acoustic tile ceilings. Standard stuff, nothing, there's nothing extraordinary again about the spaces in the same vein as the flooring. We're not, if we were in a cell block area or something, we might have some special ceilings. We would maybe have some hard ceilings in those two rooms adjacent to the cells. You know, not that I don't think anybody can get through there, but you know, we prevent that in all cases. So, so that's pretty standard stuff in the ceilings. Painting scope, again, we're going to be painting everything that we're touching, and if we're building a wall in a space that's not being worked on other than that wall, only that wall will be painted. The stairs, we did include painting all the stairs. So, you know, even though we're not touching the floor and the ceiling, we are painting the walls. And same with door frames. If the room is touched, we're, you know, if you touch an existing frame, we will be painting it. And if we don't touch it, we will not be painting it. So that's that. I also point out some other things that we owned, just so you know, so that we have them already in it. We owned a new wire partition in the sally port, a finished one. We owned window treatments for all of the new windows, all the countertops, and you know, the sinks and lobbies will be solid. We own solid surface materials, cabinets are plastic laminate. We own bullet resistant walls in the lobby, bullet resistant glass transection windows with speakers and transaction pass-throughs. We right now own in the lobby a chair rail and a lower wall wood paneling. I think part of it probably was in keeping with what used to be there, but we can rethink that. We own the lobby display cabinets, lockers in the dispatch, a one-way window in room 214, which is the detective's area, and new kitchen appliances in the police department. So already those things were all part of the scope that I, you know, as a highlight. And then these are the things that we talked about after the fact, a replacement of all windows in the building. I would recommend that before we do that, we check the status. We do have an envelope consultant as part of the team to do any testing and review that we want. And I put the roofs in the same category. We own pretty minimal roof work right now in the estimate, but we looked at replacing all of them. The building is now, you know, what, 4 or 5 years older than it was when we started. So, but it might be worth having the envelope consultant test and review so that we can know what their recommendations are for replacement. I mean, we're going to be replacing a lot of rooftop equipment. Is this the time to do it? We were only replacing some of it before, so we limited the work we were doing, but and the roofs were in good shape. So for the most part, and I think the one roof we were replacing was over the room near the sally ports where you had moved all the technology stuff in, where there was the hatch to go up to that roof. And I think we had problems in there. And then there was a question about upgrading the emergency generator. Again, we'll get the engineers in there when they're looking at the mechanical equipment to make a recommendation on whether those things should happen. So those were all part of the follow-up. They weren't part of the base, but they were certainly part of the follow-up later on. I want to show you these drawings just to kind of give you an overall of the building. So on the exterior, the light poles were remaining. The flagpole poles will be reinstalled in a new location when we shift the entry. The memorial stone will be relocated, and the historic, we had planned on trying to remove the historic police department sign about the old entry and reuse it in the building. I highlighted in green just to talk about it, because we talked about it last time, the possible changes in use during construction. In the garage, I noted an area that maybe we put the sally port possibly during the period of time when we're doing the extension. I don't know how you want to do that at the police department, but it is right near the door, and the elevator will be right there, and the stairs right there if you have to move up into detention. So I just note that. We also talked about using part of the training room for office space, and then where we come in on Princess Street, whether any work will have to be done or any money will have to go into preparing those to take a new public entry. So I highlighted those 3 things. The additions will impact obviously the public entries, the lobbies for the fire department and the police department, records and licensing, the community room, and all rooms adjacent to the construction activities. I blow you up into the to the first level off of Union Street. And there I'm highlighting there's no work in the locker rooms projected, men or women's. Now there will be a little bit of work on the south wall of the women's locker room as we create that little bit of space for more lockers and the janitor's work, but otherwise there's no work in that. There's no work in the community room at all, unless we do work in there that we have to repair or replace, and no work in the fire department offices or conference rooms on that main level. And then I talked to you about everything else. There'll be new ceiling space, flooring, and painting in the corridors, as well as all the newly constructed space. So we'll be working on above those ceilings, and we'll be replacing those ceilings, for instance, in the corridors. So that is the scope of the work on those levels. I also want to point out, just in the, and I show it on the next, on another slide, but we're going to be removing that raised slab in the garage, where the extension for the dispatch will be for the office and the toilet rooms. And so that slab is raised. We're going to have to cut that out and repair the air, the vapor barriers and things like that. So that's owned as part of the scope right now.
So Janet, just on that, the women's locker room, the existing one.
Yeah.
So I think you show a new partition there. We're reducing the size of the janitor's closet.
Well, that's an office right now, Shane.
Okay.
That goes from the door to the outside wall. We're cutting that down, putting the janitor's closet in there, and just trying to throw a few more lockers for women.
We're adding those 2 lockers there in the corner. Yeah. So it'll just be, patched to match existing.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Can you go back one slide?
Yep.
Just for your diagram here, this room labeled future locker room. That will be the that's going to be the women's locker room.
Okay. These are, I know that after the fact we looked at, and these could change. These are, one of them has no locker rooms and no locker space right now, and one has an existing. So however you do it in the end, one of them will get no work and one will be completely new. Okay. So, yep. Okay, let me make a note of that. Future. Okay. Okay.
Janet.
Yes.
Sorry. Question. So the training room, even though there's no work going on, we're obviously be using it to be shuffling people and working. Couldn't we just include floors in that as part of the finishes after the?
Yeah, we can.
Be floors going on everywhere else. Like it's probably going to take a beating. And same comment with the elevator. I don't know what's on the floor there. Just planned for a piece of a square or something. It gets overlooked and then everyone's standing around the last day. Maybe they just throw it in. I don't know. My other question has to do with the fire department halls. Any of the no work areas going to be part of new traffic patterns in and out of the building, or over in the fire department corner?
So you're talking over here. Let me get a.
Yeah, in that corner there. Is there, like, are we going to be going back and forth over those hallways a lot more during this whole project?
Well, that's a good question. And that's why I kind of highlighted this area. So I think on the original slide, I said this slide here, I wrote indicates possible change in construction, change in use during construction. We don't own anything for that right now. I'm kind of balancing between what we owned and what we didn't. So we didn't own this, but I think that's why I highlighted. I think we're going to need to do some work there. So, so, I mean, how's that conference room going to be used?
That's what we call it, scope creep, Philip.
Yes, it is called scope creep.
So I'm 21 years working with condo boards, so I can't help myself with scope creep. But I'm new to the public sector, so I ask these questions. But thanks for teaching me.
So I think so. One of the purposes again of this is just to refresh is what we included originally.
Okay.
Certainly, if when we go through the process and we have additional funds, we can look to add some of that in. But right now it's not in, and unless we're under budget, I think we should leave it out, and we can look at it later on as well. If we take it out now, it doesn't mean it can't go in at some time in the future.
Yeah, and Phil, I can always when I'm setting up for the first estimate, we can target these areas and he can pull them out and give us ads for these or something like that, because I think you're right, they're going to get beat, and we'd hate to open a new building and the first room you go into off the lobby is this really godforsaken beat up training room. Not that it's always in pretty good shape, but it may need work. So what did I do all that? I think I did everything.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and there's painting only in the stairs, so that's the own scope for, and you can see on the we kind of tried to show you where the existing stuff is. So, there's a lot of demolition floor, that's an existing wall. That's an outside wall right now. We have intended to keep it. We'll look at that a little further. Is it doing anything? Is there structure in it? Because if we can get rid of it, it might help, getting that this is that stair that right now the door is here and the exit is here. And you kind of have to see around the corner, but you can see it. So now we have you coming out, you got to go this way and this way. So there's, I know that we had a door here originally in the original scope, and he asked us to take it out. Well, we may have to put it back in from egress point of view, because if I can make this part of my egress pathway right here, if you get to that door now, you can see the entry. And I might have to do that. So, these are things we're going to decide. And, I've just got the code report, so I'm just figuring it out. But I do know that you can't, from here to here, you can't see the door. So, it may require us to push this desk back a little bit. It may require us to extend this wall and put that wall back so that, you do this and you can see. So we'll work those out. This is the parking level off of Princess Street. There's minimal work, below grade. There was noted some repair to rebar, corrosion and rusted deck. There's a dent in the wall, I know. We'll see what that means and how it's changed. It might have been repaired since then, but we'll take a look at that again to see if we have to own some work for that to make sure that, that whatever we're doing, we're not really sure how that corrosion actually happened, or that rusted. It probably was a leak at some point, maybe about the apparatus, from the apparatus. I'm not really sure. And then I noted again the location of the possible temporary sally port, and we're going to have to relocate that storage. And I don't know if you have to cage that, chief, or what has to be done with that, but I don't know if that's going to be a cost or whether it needs to be there. I don't know. You'll have to think about that. So anyhow, and then this is the upper level off Union Street and off the apparatus and Sally Port entry. Again, the additions will impact the Sally Port and detention, the police department side entry, and all rooms are directly adjacent to the construction activities. I highlighted the fitness room again. We talked about it last time, so I highlight again. If we do use that as office space or swing space or meeting space or whatever, short term, it may need that same level of repair that we were just talking about, Phil. So I highlight that as something we talked about last week or last time we met. On the upper level, again, new ceiling space, flooring, and painting in the corridors, as well as all the new constructed spaces. And there's no work in the fire department or fitness area, although I just talked about the potential of it, but we don't own it right now. And that's what that does. And then from the apparatus and Sally Port entry off a Crescent, we're going to have to reconfigure access to the dumpster. We did own a reconfiguration of that, but we may have to do more of that. We'll have to look at that a little bit more. There will be related work in these mechanical rooms as they're doing work. We'll have to see what it is in the end, what it impacts. The armory, that door here, this is what I was talking about from an egress point of view. You're allowed to lock the doors, and the detention is escorted in case of an emergency from a detention area, and they can do this way. The other exit can go through the Sally Port, but we have to determine whether it has to be a man door, or because we wonder if maybe they exited this way through that space. It's now the armory, so we have to do a little bit more digging on that. It wasn't crystal clear in the old code report.
Is that determined by the maximum occupants that might be in there, Janet, or is that we
well, yeah, no,
regardless?
that's what we have to figure out. This is an I3, so it has a 2-hour rating. It's the highest, it's already designed to meet all of the construction things. It's not a challenge having more than 5 in. We were worried at first. And when I was talking to the code, I quickly about this, he didn't know the answer to that. And so we have to kind of backtrack and try to figure out what the code says exactly about exit through a Sally Port, whether we need to. We may not even need to, but if we need to, and you go through a sally port, can you go through an overhead door, or do they expect the man door? Now we could possibly put a man door here, but you know, you don't really want a man door off a sally port. It's not the, you know, that's not that's what you want to do. And our sally port was supposed to be on this side and our impound bay on this side. So, you know, if you're bringing a prisoner out, you really want to get them out straight ahead, but we can't go to the right because the transformer's there. So we gotta do a little thinking of that. I need to talk to the chiefs and, you know, and the staff a little bit about how this works. And I have to talk to the code guy. They were going to do a little bit of thinking about it as well. Try to determine what was the intent 20 years ago and what the code says now. So we're going to review the status of the grade difference at the apparatus door threshold. The foundation wall, there's a little bit of drop. And I know that there might have been work done in the past, but we want to go back and look at that again to make sure that we don't have to pour a new slab there to prevent that from further movement, and takes a toll on the fire trucks. That there's no other work in the apparatus space, so that's that. Again, third level of a union, same comment. Additions will impact all the rooms directly adjacent to the construction activities. You know, we weren't really doing any work in some of these areas, and I realize these are kind of strange blue blocks here, but you know, I think, you know, obviously this room is going to be all part of one space, so it'll be finished completely when it's done. So again, new ceilings, face, floor, and painting, same notes. No work in the rest of the building, in the fire department or in this common space. There is a mechanical room up here. Whatever work we do in there, you know, if we have to adjust, we will for that. And that's it for existing. Does anybody have any more questions about that? You know, there's pretty exhaustive estimate. It is a line estimate, so there's a lot of detail in it. When people start, like for instance, when the structural engineer starts, you know, the study had a limited scope for them at the beginning. You know, they'll start doing more investigative work once they get the geotechnical report in and find out what's underneath this addition here from a utility point of view, and that they'll have comments on that. You know, if you recall, this part of the building sits on grade beams, and there was a question whether anything adjacent to it was going to have any special foundation. So we're going to have to determine that one right away. That'll be a really important thing to find out right away. So,
Janet, I have a couple things.
Yep.
Number one, early on, you mentioned that the fire prevention system, there would just be an extension of that. One of the issues we identified early on here was that the fire prevention system, suppression system in the mechanical areas where we have our computers, 911, is
right.
water-based. Is there going to be a planned change to that?
Well, whoops, sorry. I want to go backwards here. So we're talking about in this area right here.
Yeah. So we have, correct, the telephone data room.
Yeah.
911 has a
right here.
Water-based fire suppression system. That's all electronic equipment in there.
It's a bit of a mess down there. It's pretty tight quarters for everything that you've gotten in there. You don't have any control over the 911 equipment. They give you what they give you, sort of thing. And so we're going to take a look at that because I'm not really sure how to fit necessarily it all in the best way. So that's part of the MEP AP engineers task, is to make sure everything works, everything fits, everything is protected, all that good stuff. So I know that, you know, when we were all there, it was like, these spaces are too small or they're not in the right location. They might've been perfect 20 years ago.
Right, we know they're small. The issue being if the fire suppression system kicks on, it's water, we're going to lose all of our computers of 911. So is there a way to change that from water to a
dry system? Yeah, we could. And so, you know, we'll have them look at that. So I'm not really sure if there's any, they'll be asking for any reorganization, if it makes sense to them, to any of this that they have to reply. I mean, I know that when we were in the last time I was in the tel data room, it was leaking from above. There was issues, and I assume you've corrected at least the leaking by now. There's no continual water coming down in rainstorms. Is that correct?
I haven't been in there, to be honest with you.
Okay, well, we'll look at that again, so.
The other thing is, I talked about not having carpeting and dispatch.
Yep.
Whatever floor we do put in there has to be something that is high quality, because there's the chairs roll around. They roll around 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. So whatever does go in there needs to be high strength that will survive.
Yeah, and part of that is always when you're buying furniture, you buy the right casters for your floor. There are different kinds of casters for different for different flooring materials. So when we do pick that material and we get chairs, well, we're going to make sure that they are appropriate. But yeah, we'll get a high quality in there. So.
And the only other thing I had was that for the evidence room,
yep,
the drug evidence is stored, there has to be a certain air exchange in there, and I believe air has to be changed 12 times per minute or something.
Okay.
Kevin McCall knows the exact specs
okay.
on that, but I believe it's 12 times per minute.
Yep, I think I can't remember. There is something about the evidence. I know. Well, I'll have to look at that. But yeah, if you have anything, that you want to, anything that you know of that things like that, just shoot them out to us so that we make sure that they're addressed. But if you're following some standard, and I'm sure our engineers know about it, but it doesn't hurt to question them on it. Okay. So please send that out to us. So
you think the open ceiling is okay in there? You don't want a hard ceiling, Chief?
I'm going to is Kevin's on this call.
Yep.
Isn't he? Kevin, maybe you can answer the question for the evidence room. All right, hold on. He's calling me.
Okay.
Okay. Kevin will call me on in a minute. He's having some technical issues.
All
okay.
Right.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, I think it's okay. Yeah, I've seen where you don't want the 2x2 tile, right? Because you don't want anybody hiding anything above it. But if it's open or a hard ceiling, we just.
Yeah, I mean, there's absolute. I mean, it's going to be a concrete floor. You're going to see the steel frame of the building above it. We could put a ceiling in there if we needed to. It's not a problem. The only persons to go in there is the evidence officers, so it's a pretty restricted area. But we'll do what you want, essentially. We just don't own a ceiling right now, so that's again, go back to what we put in. And there must have been a reason we didn't put it in, but it could be that we were looking for every penny to cut. And we kind of went through and said, oh, do we need a ceiling in here? No one goes in here, et cetera, et cetera. So, but we can talk about that.
Chief, I had a question.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Chief, I had a question regarding the exercise, fitness room.
Yep.
How crowded is that? I remember, I haven't seen it in a long time. When it was first on, there wasn't too much equipment up there, but I assume there's a lot more now.
It's pretty crowded in there. With the equipment, if you get 2 or 3 people in there, you're bumping into each other. There's quite a bit of stuff in there.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if it was possible, like we're talking about using it as a, temporary locations or whatever, getting cubicles or something, and, maybe moving some of that stuff out of there for a period of time.
I would actually prefer to use that room rather than the community room.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah. If we could, cut off half of it or whatever and move a couple of machines, whatever is up there. Like I said, I haven't been up there in a long time. It might be something to think about.
Joe, even if for the duration of the project, the equipment had to go into storage somewhere.
Yeah, or just a couple of them left, or you know what I mean? That there could be a little bit of exercise stuff, but not.
You don't want anybody working out while people are using it as an office space.
No, no, it's one or the other.
No, I'm talking about using cubicles and blocking off. You might be able to do some.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I would say everything's got to come out of there. It's a decent enough space, but if you left anything behind, you're better off utilizing all the space that's in the room.
How often is it used?
Well, the fire department uses it all the time because, we're busy. No.
I know, and I know. Look, it was.
No, the fitness room gets used all the time. There's always police and fire in there using it. But if that's a sacrifice for a year or so, then it is what it is.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I think it'd be the perfect spot. All right. Sorry to interrupt.
No, it's a good one. I mean, I think when we talked about it, I don't think we ever talked about it, but it is right off of the elevator and the stair, and there's a separation right here, with doors. So it's a good area to consider for use, temporary use. Okay. Whoops, we got somebody.
I'm available now if you can hear me.
Yes.
So the current drug room, which is off of the general evidence room, right now has zero ventilation. There's no air exchange whatsoever. And what I'm reading is it should be a negative pressure ventilation system that changes the air in the storage room approximately 10 to 12 changes per hour.
Okay.
Negative pressure is defined as the method of providing low velocity airflow from uncontaminated mass areas, blah, blah, blah. HEPA filters are mentioned as well.
Okay.
So right now the room remains locked and closed, and there's just an air vent pumping, hot and cool air in, but there's no air exchange whatsoever.
Okay. This, I have it up on the screen again. We kind of laid this out, seized weapons on one side, drugs on another. We don't have to lay it out this way. It can be however you want. We're going to own a high density storage system in there. So we can look at those with you and
sure. And I'd like to
make sure that
I have some suggestions to that. And the other thing, while I have a minute here, the current temporary locker bank is all battery operated right now. And we did sort of look into hardwiring that, but we, now that we're going to be doing the building over, there's no need to obviously look into that any further. But any of the temporary lockers that we would install, obviously we'd like to have something that's a little more modern and not, it's just a 9-volt battery right now. And when the battery goes out, the locker is not functioning until you replace it.
Okay. Well, we own right now pass-through lockers with a refrigerated unit in it right now. Okay.
And that's the other thing, we have just basic locked refrigerators that are in another part of the building right now. So any type of temporary storage of evidence that needs to be refrigerated is just locked. It's accounted for, but it's just locked in basically almost like a college dorm type fridge.
Yep. So we own one of those systems. Yeah.
Okay, so you have the modern.
Yep.
Okay, and then what about like a firearms bank of lockers?
So it's a pretty small space, the amount of lockers we have here. So we should go over that in detail with you, but we could extend it. The layout, I don't know if you can see this on the screen. So we have, I don't know, a couple lockers here, and then we have a counter here that you could do your, let me see if I can blow this up for you. I don't know if I can blow it up and use the laser pointer. So we had a table here, or a counter built in, a prep counter with, and we designed them per per police department. So you can customize yours. What kind of, how do you wrap your products? What kind of bags do you like? What kind of storage, so that you can have a custom counter there. And then we have this bank of lockers right here. And then we have a wall, because what we have is a place for the evidence officer on the inside to take things out and process it. If we need to make this longer, bigger, better, we could do whatever you want. We can work that out with you. Usually in the locker, we work with you to design the exact kind of locker sequence. Usually we have a long locker for long guns and things like that are taken into evidence, and we have the refrigerator unit. And then the rest of it is usually a mix of small and large size lockers. So it will work with you specifically on that, and make sure that layout is what you want.
Sounds good.
And then we can also, we can make changes in here to, to make the right things for you. I think the other thing that that was asked about the flooring and the ceiling and that, we do not own it. We were going to put linoleum, I believe, in the floor. We don't have to put a linoleum floor. We could do a concrete floor in there.
I think a concrete floor would be fine. Just, as long as it's sealed, and if there's some type of a spill, it's not gonna seep into the floor and stay there forever. But I think a concrete floor that's been properly sealed would be fine, and use that flooring money elsewhere in the building.
And what about the ceiling? We didn't put a ceiling in, so we have the underside of the steel framing for the floors above, and I think we didn't put it in before. I don't think we thought we needed it, but now's the time to kind of comment.
No, I mean, there's myself and two other evidence officers. They're the only ones that are spending any time in there, and it's just basically a storage room. So it would just be for aesthetics, and we don't need a drop ceiling or anything like that.
Okay, good.
And then the existing shelving we have could definitely be reused.
Well, I think we own, and I have to check the number, but I think we own high density storage. Do you know what that is?
$50,000 allowance.
What was that?
I think it was $50,000.
Yeah.
Allowance.
Yeah. So the high density storage is, think of the dentist's office that has the rolling shelving that rolls, back and forth together. You can get a lot more storage in there. I know, if I'm not mistaken, do you, I don't know if you still do you just sign a shelf or a unit per officer or something right now? Is that
we memory? Have, the way it's set up is each officer has their own space in the evidence room where we would put their evidence. So each officer does have their own space, but, going forward, we could make changes if need be, but we would most likely keep it the same way. That's how we do it in the computer, as far as assigning evidence locations, but we could be flexible in them.
Yeah, so the high density, we'll show you some different looks on that. You can set up individual sections of it to store, weapons, or you have your seized weapons room, but you can have these designed to fit equipment, the shelving and that. So it's sort of custom. They can really do pretty much anything you want in these. So there are companies that specialize in high density storage for police departments. So
can I ask you, are there any special shelving or storage units dedicated to firearms?
Yeah, they do usually have different kinds of things. I might even have a catalog somewhere in the office. If not, I'll arrange to get you one so you can take a look at what. I know I'll find one and you can look at it online. How's that?
And I don't know if it'd be helpful for you to see the current room.
I think I've been in there.
Okay.
I think I've been in there. That's why I kind of know that you have one shelf per person. That was my recall of that. And unless it's changed, I might even have some pictures. I'm not even sure if I do or not. But yeah, we'll probably want to get into those spaces again. But let's start with let's try to get this one the best as possible, and let you see what's available. And if you don't want that, and we can reuse shelving, we'll reuse the shelving.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Once we get into detailed design, I think we'll take a good look at that. And as John had said, there's companies that will come in and they'll design it for different sized items. I've done this before where the police chief said, you can have everything from a car key to a canoe in your evidence room. So we'll size stuff so you can store whatever might come in there.
Yeah.
And
Sounds good.
Including the green storage, yeah.
Great.
It's all customized. Yeah, we can customize it to whatever we want.
Perfect.
Okay. What other questions do we have?
Shane, everybody, I'm gonna have to leave. I'll talk to Shane tomorrow, and then we'll talk tomorrow night for the meeting, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. Take care, Joe.
All right, bye.
Question, structural engineer going to be looking at the rusty steel in the garage while they're there?
Yeah, that was part of their original, I have it right here. That was part of their original notations that there's a dent in the northern concrete wall of the old police station. This is a bearing wall, and they thought that they should look at that further, determine if it had to be repaired. And they saw steel beam and metal deck corrosion in a few areas of the second floor framing above the parking lot, likely due to water infiltration through the floor of the Sally port. And they had a couple pictures. So we'll have to go back and look at it and see if it's changed in the last 3 or 4 years, if it's increased, and what that means. And I think there's fire protection stuff that's been knocked off. So we'll have to look at that too.
Yeah, I was wondering about the sprinkler system, if that needs, we're not modifying too much of the structure to get into any big.
No, we're not doing anything big like that at all. No change in occupancy, nothing like that.
Right.
We don't want to get into that, or that'll open the floodgates. But we'll take a look when we go back in. As soon as we have the model, we can get people up there. We'll have they'll be looking for very specific things based on both their study and anything else that kind of identified, and then looking at the specific additions. When somebody did ask last time, this is a substantially separate addition because of the loads thrown on the building. This is the challenging part of the building to structure. The other ones should be relatively simple, but there's, little tricky things when you add little additions, So.
I'm going to ask a question I know you've probably asked 100 times, but we've asked for the drawings from the project that happened the last time, right? Like we have the Donham.
We asked the committee, and we couldn't get them last time. We did talk about it before we put the WSP to do it.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
And it did happen. And now we're going to have a Revit model this time. Those are CAD drawings. Everything we have produced for you, we had overdrawn from PDFs, and created them. And so now we're going to get a real Revit model, and it'll point out everything, including everything that was done during construction. So the
structural stuff is what I'm, it just,
yeah.
Well, okay.
Yeah, we'll see all that.
Yeah.
We'll be able to, we owned on this side of the building where the additions go, and we owned a higher level of a Revit model than the areas we weren't touching, so that we could specifically address anything like that might come up.
Okay, thanks.
Anybody else? You want me to get out of this? Stop sharing?
Sure. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. And I think that's, we just wanted to go over that, Johnny, today to sort of set out the scope and the limit of work, so everybody understands what we're going to price, what has been priced, and what we're going to, reprice in April. So thanks for that.
Okay.
I didn't have anything else today. Maybe if Chief Scory and Scott, you could just stay on for a minute. But I had nothing else, unless anybody else has anything. We're good.
Did you ever get a walkthrough scheduled, Shane?
Well, that's what I wanted to talk about. So Scott, I wanted to see if I could come next Tuesday about 2 o'clock. Chief Scory, if that would work.
Yeah, hold on, Shane. Just let me check the schedule here.
Tuesday's the 9th.
Tuesday the 9th, yeah?
That works for me.
Okay, 2 o'clock on Tuesday the 9th.
Chief?
I will be on a training class at 2 o'clock, but Scott should, Scott's well versed in this building. He should be able to answer any questions.
Yeah, I just want to come in, kick the tires, see what you got in there. I haven't seen it other than any photographs in the report. So just a quick tour, no longer than an hour.
Sure. And Phil, you said you wanted to come by for that too?
I did, but with COVID and everything, I don't want to crowd the house either. So I was going to ask what the preferences would be on the police department. I wear, I've been safe and wear a mask, but also understand we're in weird times. So I'd like to come, but if it's too crowded, I can back out.
It'd just be the three of us, but if you want to come by a different time, I'm always around and I can take you around. But if you want to do it with Shane, I don't think 3 people would be too crowded.
Yeah, I'm walking properties, I know I can keep my distance for a big guy. So, okay, I'll check my schedule. I'll email you. I'll email Shane, let him know.
Yeah, and then just the other thing, we have the statement of qualifications coming back from the construction managers next Wednesday. They're coming to Left Field's office, so I'll spend the afternoon sorting through those and putting them in packages for the selection committee. What I'd like to do is maybe drop a box off to the police station, perhaps put in the training room where the committee members can come in and just take their packages. If that room is open 24/7, they can get access in there. It would probably be a box no bigger than, a WB Mason photocopy paper box.
Shane, when did you want to drop that off?
It would probably be Wednesday afternoon or Thursday morning.
When you come in, just pick up the phone in the lobby, talk to dispatch, and somebody will come down and pick that up.
Yeah. And that way the committee members can just come in, grab their package and leave.
I just want to make sure that they go to the right people. So if you pick up the phone, somebody will pick that up, deliver it to one of us, and then we'll disperse those to the people who need them.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, that's all from me, guys. Thank you.
Question, tomorrow night at the meeting, is that tomorrow night? Yes.
Yeah.
Are you making the presentation, Shane? Just want to make sure, because I mean, we weren't going to have this meeting tomorrow, so I just wanted to ask why we have you.
Yeah, so I'll run through the phasing that we talked about a couple of weeks ago pretty quickly, and then if we can condense what we did today into 15 minutes, Janet.
Okay.
Okay. Maybe we just show these graphics.
Yeah, I can stay with just I'll stay with the graphics. I think those, with a longer thing, I can put all that detail in, but we can stick with the graphics. Okay. All right. Yeah. Great.
Great. Can you send me a copy of this presentation, Janet? And I need your invoice too.
Oh yeah, we had a little delay because of the storm, and Comcast knocked out our computers and everything. So, so we're trying to get that for you for tomorrow. So. Okay.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Right. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.